Hey folks, I'm Jen Foxbot and welcome to MakerQuest. In this episode, I'm going to give a general overview of renewable energy technologies. A large part of why I switched from physics to engineering, even though I still really love physics, is because I wanted to encourage the use of and implement renewable energy technologies. I noticed that in the past 30 years or so, the environment has become kind of a political issue, which is unfortunate and sad, and the kind of funny part, I guess you could say, is that the Earth doesn't really care about us. So when we talk about environmentalism, it's really about saving humans as a species, as well as all the other species that we depend upon, the animals, plants, and other life forms that we eat, that we pet, that we love and cherish, and that give us the world that we know and that we are comfortable in. All right. So first of all, when we're talking about climate change, what is a greenhouse gas and why does that matter? Well, greenhouse gases, as you might have guessed from the name, they are gases that absorb heat energy, which is also known as infrared radiation. So I kind of divided up the types of renewable energy technologies into two main categories. The variable technologies, so things that are dependent on weather or other conditions that aren't always able to generate power. So things like solar and wind. And then we have consistent renewable energy technologies that are on 24/7, just like your traditional gas and coal-fired power plants. Starting with the variable renewable energy technologies, solar is probably one of the most popular, and I covered that in my introduction to photovoltaics, or also known as solar panels. So check out that video if you want to learn how to actually use a solar panel in one of your projects at home or for your classroom. Wind is also another really popular one that you're probably familiar with, and I hold up this computer fan because it's basically the same thing. So wind, to generate electricity from wind, we use turbines, and typically the most common ones that I've seen at least are the three-pronged, like really giant ones, and they're in all these really cool wind fields. There's a lot of them in Southern California, like outside of Joshua Tree. The last variable renewable energy technology that I'll mention is kinetic. So kinetic is just using energy of motion to generate electrical energy. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do this. Some of the really cool ways that I've seen involve using pressure sensors or piezo sensors. There's also ways that we can use kinetic energy of waves to generate electricity as well. Okay, so now to get on to the consistent forms of renewable energy. Some of the main ones that you might be familiar with are hydroelectric. So that's actually a really cool technology that's been around for a really long time, and it's one of the most popular as well. It uses moving water to spin a turbine and generate electricity. Then we also have geothermal. And geothermal is really cool too. So geothermal energy uses hot water or steam that's found really close to the Earth's mantle, or I guess just really deep in the Earth's crust. And then it pumps that water up and uses that to run a steam turbine. So there's a couple of different ways that you can do this, and it really depends on the temperature of the water or if you have steam available. And then lastly, I want to mention nuclear as well. And nuclear often gets a bad rep because it is dangerous and you have to have a lot of fail-safe mechanisms, and it does produce radioactive waste, which is not good for the environment or people. However, it is a very consistent and reliable source of energy. And the type of nuclear reactors that we have are based on fission. And fission uses a unstable atom, typically uranium, collides it, which causes it to undergo a chain reaction and release a bunch of energy. And so then the byproducts of that are what is radioactive. As long as we are extremely cautious and careful about the implementation, and as long as we have regular safety checks and don't cut any corners, I think it's a safe technology to use, at least until we figure out fusion, which is really exciting. And so fusion is what happens in the sun, and fusion is combining two atoms, typically hydrogen or an isotope. If that's not familiar, don't worry about it. But basically fusing two atoms by colliding them together, and then you get like a helium atom, I think it is, or something like that, and then a bunch of energy out the other end. So there's been a lot of research into fusion because there's no harmful byproducts. It's all clean, there's no radioactive materials that you generate, and it's just easier to deal with and much, much safer. I'll leave it there for now. And for this week's question, I want to challenge you to think of what are some other sources of renewable energy that either we could use or maybe we are using currently to generate electricity. So either do some research or tap into your creative brain juices and let me know what you think about that. To answer last week's question, I asked, what are airplane contrails? Or what are the cloud trail things formed behind airplanes? What are they and how are they made? So it's actually really cool because the airplane exhaust is kind of like your car exhaust. It's super hot, right? But the airplane is like miles in the atmosphere where it's really cold. So when the exhaust comes out the back of the engine, it hits the air molecules in the sky, which are really cold. And so that exhaust, which has some water vapor, collides with the cold air molecules, which also has some water vapor, and causes all that water vapor to condense. So it goes from vapor into liquid water, and it creates a cloud. So your airplane is making a cloud trail behind it, which is adorable. So yeah, yay, science. All right, let me know if you have any questions about that explanation or about renewable energy technology. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe.